Book cookie. Book cookie? Bookie.
You're the greatest actor of it.
It's no secret that I've been working on my book, Sweet Celebrations, for what feels like forever. But now that it's done, I thought the perfect way to commemorate would be with some book cookies. I'm going to call them bookies. That just makes sense. I'm not just going to be cookieing my book, I'm going to be cookieing some of my favorite YouTuber books today. Let's see if your favorite YouTuber made the grade. We're going to make book cookies, and then inside I'm going to create little individual surprises that represent the person that wrote the book. Let's get started. The things you're going to need to make your book cookies: of course, you're going to need cookie dough, some white fondant, a little plain flour. You'll need a knife. I like an X-Acto or a Stanley knife here. Scissors, snap seal bags, some powdered sugar, a little honey, a paintbrush, some candy melts in white, a rolling pin, a nail file. I'll show you how we're going to use that. And whatever candy you want to fill your bookies with. I've also got a couple of templates for you guys. So I've got the template that you'll need for your cover and spine and pages. You'll need to print that out on regular paper and cut around it. And then I've also made the templates of my book and my top YouTuber books, which I printed on edible paper. So first we need to roll out our cookie dough. My cookie dough has been chilling out in the fridge. I always like to keep it nice and cool before rolling. Sprinkle down a very generous amount of flour. And when I say generous, I mean generous. I always like to start my dough off by just pressing it a little bit, and then a little more flour on my rolling pin so nothing sticks. We'll roll it out. It's not quite as thin as I want it yet, but here I'm gonna slide it onto a piece of parchment. It's gonna make my life a lot easier. So I'm gonna slide my parchment right underneath the cookie dough, and then I'm just gonna roll out basically about the same size as my piece of parchment. When you're making something like piñata cookies, especially with a book that's got square edges and pages that really need to meet up pretty precisely, it's best not to move the cookies around at all if you can possibly avoid it until they're baked. We want them to stay as true to template size as possible. I'm gonna leave the recipe link for this cookie dough in the description box below. But of course, you know it's also available in my new book. Once you're happy that you've got your cookie dough covering your parchment, I'm just gonna trim off any of the edges to make chef's cookies for me. And then I'll grab a baking tray and we're just gonna throw the whole thing onto a baking tray. I'm gonna do this quickly. Perfect. Now I would recommend chilling that sheet in the fridge for 15 minutes before we try to cut it. It's just gonna make your life a lot easier. Our templates are cut, our sheet is chilled, so now you can start tracing around. Make sure that your book cookie covers are in your nicest, cleanest area of your cookie dough. I am gonna say this is a lot easier than making an actual book. I'm gonna use my X-Acto to come right around the outside edges. Keep them straight, keep them even. Preheated oven and cold cookie dough is always the best for making sure that your cookies don't stretch and kind of go out of shape when they're cooked. You can remove your templates and then you can just peel away the excess pieces of cookie dough, and if it's still nice and chilled, they should just lift up pretty nicely and easily. Depending on how much time, oven space, and patience you've got, you can actually make those one at a time. I'm gonna cut another one out while this one bakes. They only take 7 to 10 minutes to cook, and you'll know they're done when they just start to color around the edges. They'll go like a goldeny brown color. Now they're ready for us to start getting ready to decorate. You'll notice that, they're pretty straight, they're pretty good, but in the baking process, we've got just a few little areas where they're not completely perfectly straight. This is where our nail file comes in. So make sure it's a new and clean, not a used nail file, but this is the best way to get super precise edges on your cookies without cracking them and without breaking them. Have a look at that. We've got a little bit of an edge. I'll take a pedicure and a shellac, thanks. All right, I'll take the foot massage. Smooth, crisp, straight perfection. The beauty salon is closed and you can put the nail files away because now we have all of our little pieces of cookie ready to create our book. So you can have 3 pages and I've labeled them all on the template for you. You can put your spine and your covers away. We're going to cover our 3 pages in fondant and then we're going to make little book-like marks on them so they look like pages. So I'm just going to put out a little bit of my powdered sugar. All right, a lot of my powdered sugar. And then we'll roll out our fondant super thin. If you find your fondants at all sticking to your rolling pin, you can pop a little bit of that powdered sugar on top. I've also got a great recipe for homemade marshmallow fondant. This would be the perfect recipe to use if you wanted your books to have that little bit of marshmallowy goodness. Really thin. Get it thin, then get it thinner. Look at that. Thin fondant perfection. All right, so you're gonna cover each of your pieces of book cookie or bookie in fondant. I'm going to set aside my covers in my spine and I'm going to work on the pages. So for my pages, I'm going to take a little bit of that sweet, sweet honey. And you could also use something like a lemon curd here if you want a little bit of different flavor. I wouldn't use anything dark like Nutella because you don't want it to show through your white fondant. And I'm going to cover all 3 of my pages in white fondant. Once I'm happy that I've got like a rough coating of fondant on there, I'm just going to use the sides of one of my spatulas, or you could use the knife. And I'm just going to make messy little page indents all the way through. My book has a lot of pages, 240 in fact. All color photos, delicious ideas, creative recipes, whole chapter on Halloween. Halloween's coming. Buy one for a friend. All right, not looking like much, so take your X-Acto, grab your first pages, and then I'm going to use the X-Acto to trim right along the edge line of that cookie. We have our first pages. You want to complete that with the rest of your pages. Your other pieces of fondant can just sit and pop them under just a piece of parchment or something so they don't dry out too much. I'm using white candy melts instead of white chocolate here because they're true white, so they're going to go nicely with my fondant and not kind of have that yellowish tinge. I've got them in a snap seal bag and I'm just going to snip off a generous tip to do a makeshift piping bag. Now, choose your flattest cookie to be your front cover and set that one aside. This one is my perfect cookie. He will be my front cover. I'm going to start with the spine and I'm actually going to build each bookie on its own little piece of parchment just so that I don't have it stick to the table at any point in case any of this white candy melt goes awry. So I'm going to put a little bit of the white candy melt all the way along the edge like a chocolatey glue. And you'll see that I've left a bit of a gap and it's on the inside edge of that spine and then join together. Now with your pages, start with the 2 shorter sides, but just position everything first. You want your pages to be just slightly in from the edge of the bookie because if you look at an actual book, the pages are not right up against the edges. They're kind of in a little bit, gives us room for the cover and the spine. When you're happy with positioning, we can stick them all in place. One thing that I don't want is this little bit of cookie poking through. So I'm just going to use a little candy melt. I'm going to fill it in or kind of brush it over and then we'll add some little lines to make it match in with our pages. We can let our book cookies set at this point and then we're going to fill and top and cover. While your books are setting, I told you we were going to be stuffing these with super cute things that kind of team with the theme of the book. So I've got some M&Ms, some Reese's Minis and a little bit of pink fondant. To make your little teeny tiny cupcakes, you're going to need to take 1 Reese's Mini. I spread mine with a little bit of honey and then rolled a long sausage with my pink fondant. I coiled the sausage around so that it kind of did 3 turns and left a little peak on top and then added a tiny bit more honey onto the side of 1 red mini M&M, stuck it on top like a cherry. We made mini cupcakes. These are adorable. I'm sure I get to sample one. It's my logo. Back to work. So with my book cookie now set, I've got all of my sidewalls ready and my front cover ready to attach. But first I have to stuff it with candy. So I'm going to take yellow M&Ms. I was looking at the cover of my book and really the bright colors apart from the blue are yellow and pink. So I thought I've got the pink on the cupcake and do the yellow in the M&Ms. Just yellow. I know, it goes against everything in my soul not to make these rainbow. I'm putting the M&Ms in because they're going to hold all the little cupcakes in place and stop them from just kind of banging around inside the book. You want your book cookies nice and full with candy. And then I'm gonna lay down and kind of squish in all of my little mini cupcakes. Oh my God, this is adorable. I might have made a few too many of the little mini cupcakes, but I'm sure they're not gonna go to waste here. I'm in love with what's going on here. My logo immortalized in candy, and then my book immortalized in cookies. This is like candyception. Is that even a word? So I've got my little cutout pieces of fondant, and again, I'm gonna apply honey onto the side of the spine and also onto the cover of the book, and then I'll line them up to make sure they match up nicely. Now's where it gets kind of fun. So I mentioned I was using edible images. These are images printed out on sheets of icing paper. Not everyone's gonna have an edible image machine at home like I do, but I have left you templates, and you can send those to a ton of places, either online or your local cake decorating shops, and a lot of the time they'll print them out for you. It's worth doing because then they look exactly like the little books. To attach your edible images, all you need to do is peel them off their backing paper, and if they give you any resistance, you can slide a knife or an X-Acto underneath the sides, or if they're still not coming loose really easily, put them in the freezer for like 15-20 minutes. That will actually, believe it or not, help to loosen them from the backing paper. We have a cover, people. We have a cover, and it looks surprisingly like me. These ones aren't super fragile. They're easy enough to handle, but you don't want to overhandle them, so I'm going to cut mine out. Once you've got your pieces cut out, I'm going to use a little just plain water. Don't use honey or anything here, and a little. If you put too much water on, it's actually going to soak through your edible image. So I'm really just dipping the brush once and making sure that that brushes all the way over both my spine and my cover. And then on goes first our little spine, and then the cover. This could actually be even more exciting than my actual cover reveal. Once your little cookies are in place, I like to just press them and just sort of wrap them around so you get that really nice like wrapped book kind of flush fit. We have a cover, we have a book, we have delicious Cupcake Addiction logos going inside the book, and now we're ready to join it all together. So I have a little bit more of my white candy melt in the snap seal bag, and I'm just basically gonna glue this whole thing together. The last thing to do is to neaten off our seam, and our book cookie is done. We know that it's full of delicious candy. I'm gonna let that set before I go picking it up and shaking it around. But anybody that gets that is gonna be super excited. Let's see what we're gonna do with our other YouTuber books. For Lily Singh's book, How to Be a Boss, it's not released yet, but I know it's gonna be amazing. I decided to fill it with red M&Ms and of course Lily's signature red lipstick, because we know she loves red lipstick. Tyler Oakley's book Binge made perfect sense to fill with candy. I mean, the cover says it all. Candy wrappers and then candy inside. And of course, Rosanna Pansino's Nerdy Nummies, I took little mini chocolate chip cookies and used some black candy melt and a tiny bit of pink fondant to decorate them to look like her little smart cookie logo. So when I say I'm gonna be reading quietly, I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm actually gonna be doing. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing me cook bookies or cookie books. I hope you enjoyed the bookies today. If your top YouTuber made the list, comment below and let me know who they are. Sweet Celebrations is available in stores right now. If you haven't pre-ordered, you can still order online. Otherwise, head down to your local bookstore and pick up a copy. Guys, my whole heart is in this book and I know you're gonna love it. Use the hashtag Sweet Celebrations Cookbook on any of my social media to show me when you guys get your copies. So exciting! I will also be touring, so hit up MyCupcakeAddictionCookbook.com if you want to check out whether I'm coming to a location near you soon. Have an awesome day, guys, and thanks very much for watching.